Hey guys, D-Pad Danny here. You know, when I was a kid, I was no stranger to Disney full-length animated feature films. In fact, we had quite a few of those poofy clamshell cases that had them. You know, kind of like this. Now there's lots of entertainment to be had there, but my personal favorite has always been Aladdin. So it makes sense that when they made a video game based on the film, that I would like that too.
Let's address the elephant in the room for a minute. There were two games based on the movie made for 16-bit consoles, one by Disney Interactive for the Sega Genesis, and one by Capcom for the Super NES. This is an extremely polarizing subject, and there's always an ongoing battle of which game out of the two is the better title. Without going too much into that, I'm in the camp that prefers the Capcom SNES title. The Genesis one is good, sure, but I just don't like it as much.
With that in mind, today we're talking about Disney's Aladdin for the Super Nintendo.
The story is the same as the cartoon, and begins with Jafar, the Sultan of Agrabah's right-hand man, who is the villain of the story, attempting to retrieve a magic lamp from the fabled Cave of Wonders. The poor sap he sends in gets smashed by the cave as it closes, claiming that
only one may enter the diamond in the rough.
Enter Aladdin, resident good guy street rat living his best life with his monkey buddy Abu. Aladdin's movement is really fun, as the game employs a parkour way of getting around. There's things you can bounce off of, things you can swing from, and you can grab ledges of platforms to climb up and down to safety. It all feels really nice. There is a slight momentum system at work here, as you'll slide slightly when you try to change directions abruptly. This isn't really that much of a hindrance though, and you get used to it relatively quick. You can take out enemies by jumping on them, but you can also throw apples that will stun enemies momentarily. You can collect more apples throughout the stages. There's also food items that refill some of your health, and these blue and red gems to collect. There's a certain amount of them in each level, and at the end of each one it shows you how many you got. I don't remember what happens if you get them all in a single stage, because, well, that's not something I managed to accomplish often. There's also this scarab beetle that if collected will allow you to participate in a little bonus wheel spin at the end of the stage, where you can win extra lives and continues. Early in the first stage you get this cloth that you can use to slow your fall. This really helps a lot, and the game is much better due to its inclusion. So the first stage has you going through the streets of Agrabah until you come up against this angry shopkeep. Bop the dude on the head and wait for him to stop doing whatever that is before hitting him again. After a few hits, he's toast. Then you get to run off with the princess. Ooh la la. The graphics all look great as you'd expect from Capcom. Lots of nice colors and background layers. The character sprites are nice and detailed, and you really get a feel for each character's personality from them. Abu will travel with you throughout each level, but often runs ahead to find his own way to the end. Here you can see him climbing the wall of this building so he doesn't have to take the platforms. It's neat little touches like that I really like. So after Aladdin runs off with the princess, the palace guards assume that he must have kidnapped her and throw him in the dungeon of the palace. Jafar, disguised as an old codger, agrees to help Aladdin escape if he retrieves the magical lamp from the Cave of Wonders, so it looks like we're going spelunking. I really like the contrast to colors here in the Cave of Wonders. All the cool colors they use really work well together. The music in this stage is great as well. In fact, the music in the entire game is good. Some of the tunes are derivative of songs you hear from the movie, but there's also a lot of original stuff here as well. There's bats and scorpions and stuff in the cave, as well as lots of obstacles, like these stalactites on the ceiling, that's your smart word for the day by the way, that will break off after you grab onto them, so you need to be quick. There's also some logs you need to ride on. Careful, these can be easy to miss. Oh look, here's where Aladdin befriends the eccentric flying carpet. Neat. Upon reaching the lamp, it looks like Abu got a little greedy, and against the cave's warning to
touch nothing but the lamp,
decides to try to snag some treasure. This does not go well for Aladdin, as he has to try to escape the now molten Cave of Wonders. This culminates in an epic escape sequence while you desperately try to outrun the cascading lava behind you. Despite escaping danger for now, Aladdin and Abu find themselves trapped in the cave after Jafar double-crosses them and steals the lamp. Luckily, Abu and his crafty little monkey self, look at him, look how crafty he is, managed to pull the old switcheroo and held onto the lamp. And wouldn't you know it, there's a genie in that there lamp! After completing the silly genie-themed stage, complete with a popular Never Had a Friend Like Me song from the film in the background, the game takes a liberty in the storyline to provide an extra throwaway stage. Apparently, Abu fell off the flying carpet as they were escaping and landed in a sandy rune kind of area. Whatever, the stage has some stuff like moving chains and spikes and stuff, but is otherwise not too terribly difficult. After rescuing Abu and finishing that completely unnecessary stage, the genie offers you 3 wishes. Aladdin's first wish is to be a prince so he can woo the Princess Jasmine, and he does just that, in possibly the most iconic scene from the movie. Really, there's no enemies here or anything, just gems. If you don't care about collecting them, here's a few other things you can do at this time. Well, after that romantic romp, Jafar gets a hold of the lamp and wishes himself into a powerful sorcerer, and quickly banishes Aladdin away to an icy plateau. He somehow manages to find the frozen flying carpet in the snow and rushes back to save Princess Jasmine and Agrabah. The palace has become a dark, brooding place with lots of baddies. And fire. Lots of fire. There's also these platforms that move on a set track that you can manipulate with these pulleys. Here is where you can really hear that classic Capcom sound at work. I get an almost Super Ghouls and Ghosts vibe from this theme. After getting to Jafar, it's time to lock horns. He'll use his newly acquired lightning powers against you, and he'll also spawn these little flying guys. You'll have to be careful to avoid all of his attacks, while still managing to get enough clearance to jump on him as he swoops past you. This fight can be pretty challenging, but once you learn the pattern, you should be okay. Alright, after dispatching him, it's finally over. Right? Well, not quite. Jafar uses his devious powers to turn himself into a giant cobra. The way this is presented is actually pretty freaking cool. The ground disappears and is replaced by the snake body while flames engulf everything else. Here's another classic Capcom hallmark. Look at all of that slowdown. Phew, he's finally defeated. Psych! Mad with power not to be outdone, Jafar makes his third wish. Yeah, the second one was to make Jasmine fall in love with him, which completely whiffed and wasn't shown in the game at all. With his final wish, Jafar wishes to be turned into an
all-powerful genie.
Yeah, didn't think that one through, did you? After the battle, Aladdin wishes for the genie's freedom instead of his own happiness. In seeing the error of his ways, the Sultan decrees that the princess can marry whoever she wants, rather than being tied to the chains of arranged royal weddings. Of course, she chooses Aladdin. Everybody hugs, the genie goes on vacation, blah blah blah, happily ever after. Well, until the 2 straight-to-video sequels, anyway. Disney's Aladdin is a great, albeit a bit short, platformer for the SNES. I believe Capcom did a great job with the sound and graphics and really captured that genuine Disney feel. Sadly, this would be towards the end of the Disney and Capcom relationship, as this was one of the last games made as a joint effort of the 2 companies. All in all, I'd recommend this one to anyone. It's not that expensive for the original cart, so it's definitely worth a look.
Well, that's Disney's Aladdin for the Super Nintendo. A great game based on an even better movie. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm D-Pad Danny, and I'll see you next time.